Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Hey, hope everybody is doing fantastic and you're all set for today's exciting session. I know the notification does take a couple of minutes to go out, so let me know in the comments, folks. You can see me and hear me okay. And in a couple of minutes, I'm going to bring out my fantastic guest, Andrew Berry. I'm going to give a quick intro before I bring him out. And we're going to be talking about AI. We're going to be talking about the branches within AI. We're going to be talking about EdTech, very exciting field. And hey, introduce yourself in the comments. Make sure you introduce yourself in the comments. Let myself and Andrew know who you are, where you're tuning in from. Represent your city and let us know your background. What kind of what kind of a background you have. I'm going to give a quick intro before I bring him. All right, looks like I am live. Just wanted to check that. Sounds good. So let us know in the comments, folks. Introduce yourself. Let us know where you're tuning in from, who you are. And it's a great networking opportunity as well for all of you folks to network with each other, expand your network, and all that fun stuff. Now, before we get started, I'll let you folks introduce yourself in the comments. So while you're doing that, just a heads up to all of you who might be active job seekers. If you haven't done so already, make sure you tune in on Wednesdays when I do my weekly job search live stream where I discuss job search strategies to help all of you folks actively on the market for job search. So that is every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time zone. So make sure you mark your calendar, and you can find me right here, whether you're tuning in on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Periscope, on YouTube. I multi-stream to all these platforms. So mark your calendars every Wednesday, folks. If you're a job seeker, at 11 a.m. Eastern time zone, I talk about various job search tips and advice to help all of you folks in your job search, right? I have a couple of comments here coming in. We got Hamutel from Toronto. Awesome. Thanks for tuning in, Hamutel. We got Syed, who's an RPA developer. Awesome. Fantastic. And feel free to keep the comments coming through, folks. All right. So let me introduce today's guest. So with me, I have Andrew Berry. Now, before I give the introduction to Andrew, I think how I got connected with Andrew is a perfect example of how important it is to be networking, folks, right? So how I actually got connected to Andrew is I was invited as a speaker to a PMI Toronto's Career Accelerator program. So one of those events, right? So I was speaking at one of those events through one of someone from my network, and his name is Obi George. Shout out to Obi. I'm not sure if you're tuning in, Obi, but shout out. And Obi introduced me to someone that Andrew knows, who's Edward Johnson. By the way, Edward will be the guest in a forthcoming Tech Talk show as well. And then Edward was like, hey, I got this friend. His name's Andrew. He has a podcast. I thought that maybe, would you be interested in being a guest? He might consider you as a guest for his show. And then Edward introduced me to Andrew, right? I actually became a guest on Andrew's show on his podcast, which we're going to be talking about later on, and which is a fantastic show, by the way. It's called the Pandemic Job Hunt podcast. So very good show for those of you folks who are active job seekers right now. And I'm a guest on his show, so I think he's going to be releasing that podcast episode soon. And then, of course, I was like, hey, why don't you, I'd love to have you as a guest on my show as well. So this is the importance of networking, folks, right? And a lot of you need to be making sure you're taking advantage of this when you're connecting with people on LinkedIn. You're getting out of your comfort zone, maybe speaking at events, establishing yourself as someone in your industry. This is the power of networking, folks. I want all of you to think about that and really take advantage of that, all right? So without further ado, so Andrew Berry. So my guest today is Andrew Berry, and Andrew is a data enthusiast, currently a data science instructor and mentor at Lighthouse Labs, which is a digital learning company. And we're going to be talking about EdTech definitely for sure during this episode, folks. He is the host of the Pandemic Job Hunt. Love that. And the website address, I'll be sharing that as well later on, is www.pandemicjobhunt.com. Fantastic URL. Just a little bit jealous about that. It's a fantastic URL for sure. Andrew is a avid yoga practitioner. Pretty cool. He grew up in Southeast Asia, currently resides in Toronto, Canada. So, folks, Andrew is taking out time out of his own busy schedule to join us today. Make sure everyone gives him a warm welcome as we bring Andrew on to get started with today's segment. So, Andrew, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the show, and great to see you here again.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be on the show. Thank you for the introduction. That was really wonderful. And yeah, let's get started. I'm super
awesome. Fantastic, Andrew. So, Andrew, I mean, if we can just kind of get right into it. Now today, I definitely wanted to discuss AI or artificial intelligence. Now, most of the viewers tuning in are people in tech who might have an understanding of what AI or artificial intelligence is. But just in case, like, can you let the viewers who might be unfamiliar with this space know what exactly is AI or artificial intelligence?
So I guess let's break down just some of the misconceptions about AI. When you think of AI, I think a lot of people think of in the movies, such as 2001 Space Odyssey, they might think of that computer in the spaceship that knows everything that you're thinking about. They think it is a sentient being. However, AI is much simpler than that, especially
Right.
in the real world. AI is the use of large data sets, and we go through those large data sets. We as humans interact with those large data sets, giving it names, giving it features, understanding what those data sets are talking about. And from there, we can use artificial intelligence, aka our algorithms, to create some predictions or create some insights that we as humans may not find out quite easily based on our just own analysis of the data in itself. So AI has taken off in the past 5, 10 years. Oh, well, AI has been existing for a long, long time, but I think is becoming a lot more accessible to a lot of companies. It's taking off in the past 5 to 10 years. And you can see that by the amount of universities out there producing artificial intelligence programs or master's programs specializing in artificial intelligence. And even it's also validated by the fact that all of these different coding schools, such as Lighthouse Labs, introducing data science specific programs just to get more people into this artificial intelligence space. So that's a brief overview of AI. And essentially, it's working with big data, using some statistics, and making some predictions.
Okay, fantastic. Love those. I mean, love that explanation, Andrew. Because most of the time, and myself, and maybe it's because I'm like not a tech person like per se myself. When I think of AI, I'm thinking about robots and the movies and robots taking over and stuff like that.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, yet. Keyword, folks, is yet. He
Yet.
said yet. All right. All right. So, Andrew, my next question is now within AI. We hear about NLP, natural language processing, machine learning, deep learning. So what exactly are these areas and why are they often spoken about in current times?
So artificial intelligence it's a huge spectrum. There's a lot of different, I would say, specializations within artificial intelligence. Within AI, there is data science, and within data science, there is specializations such as NLP, deep learning, reinforcement learning. We get recommendation engines. These are different aspects that involves, I guess, the statistical models used in data science, which is another word for artificial intelligence. Right. And let's break it down. Let's do NLP first, natural language processing. So it's an exciting field. There's a lot of growth in it. There's a huge new technology called GPT-3 that's been exciting and has been recently released. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. However, NLP is all about working with text data. So text data is the world's largest collection of unstructured data. What I mean by that is, there's tons of articles out there, there's tons of pages and documents out there, and we have words on it. However, the computer, when they're reading it, they just see it as a bunch of strings. I'm sure that these coders will understand what I mean. However, we need to put meaning to those text. And to do that, we use a process called natural language processing. And there's a few technologies and techniques where we can create meaning, where the computer can understand some meaning from that text in itself. And from there, there's a lot of potential business applications with that. And one of the exciting technologies in NLP is GPT-3, which is a type of transformer that has trained already pre-trained by on a lot of text and is able to generate interesting text from the input you put in. Imagine you want to create, you want a computer to create some sort of like content marketing article, or an email for you. You can just type in a few input keywords and it will spit out the type of article that you want to have. So it really reduces the amount of work you would like to do. However, GPT-3 right now is not currently open to the public, and it's still in a huge debate in terms of the ethical reasons about it, since with great power comes great responsibility, and there's a lot of potential of these technologies being in the wrong hands. And I think this has also been validated by the fact that there's videos online with deep fakes out there, creating fake voices, fake images that look so real. And there's a lot more work to be done in terms of using technology and using data science technologies. But that's just NLP in itself. Oh, one other thing I would like to give to your users, an very exciting startup I've been following is called Copy.ai. It's another NLP startup that looks at input keywords on emails and just generates an interesting email for you. So you don't have to do much emailing work or writing, and it's pretty cool. Anyways, moving forward from NLP, deep learning, I would say, is a subset of artificial intelligence. It's a subset of data science. So within data science, there's tons of algorithms we can use. We can use a logistic regression, which is a very simple algorithm that we've probably learned in either in high school or early college, and we can go over and we can learn some other algorithms such as random forest, decision trees. There's ensemble learning methods. However, deep learning is it's not new. It's been around for a long time, but it's been popularized in the past 5 to 10 years because we have the computational resources to really use these deep learning technologies. And I'm sure you guys have heard neural networks. So neural networks is specific. It's part of deep learning. It's within a deep learning subsection, I would say. And neural networks is an advanced algorithm model that kind of mimics how your brain works. Your brains have a bunch of neurons. They're called nodes, and they kind of connect to a bunch of other brain neurons, and it kind of learns and it kind of learns whatever patterns we see as humans. And now with the computational resources, we're able to create these neurons in a computational way. And these neurons can be really small, or can be really large. However, there's a lot of potential use cases that, because the fact that it mimics how our brain works means that it learns databases and it learns the predictions you want to predict very quickly, and maybe not very quickly, but very accurately compared to some of the previous algorithms that I mentioned, such as logistic regression and decision trees. However, within data science in general, you as a data scientist, you have to make a decision based on your own understanding of based on your own understanding of the database and the problem set, which kind of algorithm is most appropriate for that problem.
Gotcha. Okay, so I mean, obviously these are some areas that we're folks. Those of you tuning in, let us know in the comments as well. You're probably hearing a lot about these things, especially right now, right? So and let us know in the comments if you have any questions for Andrew as well. I will get around to a Q&A part shortly. How about in terms of the demand for people with these skills, Andrew, can you speak a bit about that? Like, is there a demand first and foremost? I mean, given the fact that it's spoken about a lot, I'm assuming there definitely is. And why is that demand really increasing in recent times?
It is a huge demand for that. And I think I talked to someone a few weeks back on my podcast, and he said that within Canada alone in the year 2021, there is a labor shortage of 100,000 spots within the data science and artificial intelligence space. And this range from data scientists, data engineers, data analysts, Python developers, as well as cloud engineers, or those who are working directly in the artificial intelligence ecosystem or business intelligence ecosystem we can speak of in Canada specific. And imagine that value, but what is that number in the United States with a population of 10 times Canada?
This is going to be crazy.
That's a million job shortage on the data science, and there's a huge demand because we reached a point in society where there's computational resources available. We have all these services such as AWS, Google Compute Engine, Microsoft Azure, making it really accessible for these small companies, startups, SMEs, even large organizations to use these computational resources and implement data science algorithms to the vast amount of data those companies are able to capture. And it's true, every company now or any service you do, they're always capturing data from like your phone to even just to even like your Shopify landing page for your own personal little online company. They've been capturing tons and tons of data, and someone has to go through the data and really do some analysis from that. Just from maybe there's some basic analysis.
Yeah.
However, these small and medium-sized enterprises are now trying to incorporate more advanced business intelligence tools and skills into their business in order to stay competitive, because all these large companies are already implementing it, and it's just going to trickle down into the different aspects of business society.
Gotcha. Now, Andrew, if I can briefly go back to something you mentioned before, you mentioned the ethical aspects of these areas. Would that, and this is not really related to tech itself, but I'm guessing that would probably open up a lot of opportunities, like in terms of like the law and legal and ethical aspect side of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And are those conversations happening, and how are those issues kind of sorted out in the space, or is it kind of like, okay, let's see what we can do with this, and if there's any issues with stuff like that, these companies are going to sort that stuff out, or
I think the conversation for the ethics of artificial intelligence is slowly developing. I think it's been validated by one thing, and like I think Netflix recently released a documentary called Social Dilemma. Talks about how Instagram, Twitter, Facebook uses and captures all the different interaction points while you interact with the phone. For example, how long you look at that specific picture, the type of picture you're looking at, the type of hashtags you're looking at, and maybe do you like that picture, or you don't like that picture? Did you retweet that or not? And they take all this data and user input and customize a specific feed for you. And I think this also has highlighted, for example, in the US elections, where there's a lot of fake media out there. There's a lot of like fake posts in our social networks, and it feeds into the type of consumers that want to consume that type of post, causing a lot more divisions. And this is one thing in terms of the social media. However, what's also important to consider is some of the usage of, say, facial recognition technology. There's one company that I just forgot. I forgot what's called, but I think it's funded by Peter Thiel. And it's a company that does facial recognition for law enforcement around the world.
Oh, wow.
And it was able to capture, was able to scrape all these images of human faces from Facebook, Instagram, and all your public social media profiles, and put it into their database. And now it's on a phone app where a police law enforcement officer can take a photo of someone and really identify who this person is. And this is a private company just collecting a private database, but this is a service that's being implemented in law enforcement around the world. And I think it's interesting. Their business model has like a free trial. Individual police officers can just download it into their app. Then if they like it, they can just implement that into their whole system. And there's a lot of debate in terms of like the right to privacy and whatnot. And that's also just part of the ethics of AI. And I think another thing is, I would say self-driving cars, for example. At some point, you have to be aware that at the end of the day, when the car is self-driving, it has its cameras looking in front of them. If they have the right data and the right, training of their models, maybe they're able to predict a human coming through in front of them and stop their car. However, they need to start training that human. Training the car to recognize different types of humans, from children to women and children to elderly folks, calculating how fast they're going. And all of this is done by us humans and data scientists in the back end, making sure our models are being validated, making sure our data labels are correct. And there's still a lot of work. And it's up to us as data scientists to kind of like tweak where our model is. At the end of the day, like I said, AI is not there yet in terms of taking over, where there's still a human master controlling how we implement our models and how we use it in our day-to-day societies.
Wow, I mean, it's so cool. Like just the stuff that you mentioned and stuff like that. But yeah, I can totally see that there might be some privacy and ethical concerns in some of those cases, right, for these things. So totally get that. Now, Andrew, going back to what you said, I mean, obviously there's a huge demand for and a talent shortage, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Like, why is there such? I mean, you said in Canada there's over 100,000 expected for 2021, and the US is going to be like 1 million. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
is it because AI in this space is not being properly promoted, or it's not being encouraged, or like, what do you think is the reason for this shortage?
I think there's a few factors here. Part of it is the fact that the 10 years ago, AI has really taken off in terms of making it more commonplace for these companies to access it, is becoming a lot more accessible for folks. And there's always going to be a lag where higher education programs, like in universities, to really implement some of these AI programs. And part of it is the fact that we have a capacity issue. There is not enough schools out there, not enough universities, bachelor programs or master's programs, or even boot camps, AI boot camps or data science boot camps, spitting out enough people to get into the force, into the workforce. So there is a capacity issue, and I think part of that has been exacerbated by these, I guess, the market slowly reacting to the need of AI.
Yeah,
And part of it is the fact that maybe certain governments haven't supported these software developers or these tech jobs as much. So there's a lot of different factors here, and I don't know the full answer to this, but I think part of it is the capacity issue, and also it's just very hard to learn these skills in general. It requires a lot of experience,
yeah,
and I would say there's a lot of people wanting to get into the job. However, not a lot of people are qualified yet. So there's also an issue of are we training the people correctly? At the same time, the fact that data science is still a very, I would say, early field in terms of a general job in a normal business.
hmm
A lot of these recruiters and hiring managers also have a tough time defining the type of business intelligence skills they want, or defining the right data science. I think there's a lot of issue in terms of communicating the value of data science to, I guess, to say a CEO or someone in a different company, and communicating that value means understanding the right business problem and then hiring the right person appropriate for that problem. And you have to start small. You can't just go super hard in AI at the very beginning. If your company does not have any business intelligence aspect, start small, get some data analysts, analyze their data, and from there, build your capabilities from the ground up to incorporate some data science workflows or maybe artificial intelligence workflows. But it's not, you don't need data science in every business. Some traditional businesses, I think, don't really need that. For example, the restaurant business,
yeah,
at times you just probably need some advanced data analytics person to really analyze, for example, customer orders and whatnot. However, they may start to employ some data scientists to really analyze, say, if it's a rainy day, maybe we're able to predict the fact that there's a demand for a certain type of dish on that rainy day. These are little things that we need to start implementing and slowly build up. At the same time, part of the shortage is the fact that all these top companies are hiring all the best people, and all these other companies are like fighting for talent. So there's also a fight for the talent.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, love that. And in terms of so I do see some questions coming through, folks. So keep putting in the questions. So Andrew, before we get into the next question, I did have a question from one of the viewers. I thought now would be a good time for you to answer
Sure.
this. So Vijay says, and shout out to Vijay. Thanks for tuning in, Vijay. Nice to see you here. So Vijay says, Andrew, is there any specific advice on how to start data science and AI learning?
That's a great question. I was in this position a few years ago myself.
Right.
Um, I think there's a lot of ways you can get into it. First of all, you definitely need some coding background. Not too much. You don't have to be a software developer background. You just need some understanding of Python and maybe R. But however, most companies in industry have been using Python, and just learn some basic Python and start learning some of the plugins out there that's related to data science, such as sklearn or TensorFlow, then start learning some of those documentations. You can learn the basics on YouTube and whatnot. However, in order, it also is up to you. If you're a person who requires a structured environment and wants to learn in a structured way, in a very fast way, maybe a boot camp is for you. And you go through an intensive 3-month boot camp where you're able to learn the skills from scratch and have a foundation from there. Then you can start taking that into the next level and take that into whatever career journey you want. Or maybe if you don't have any data science skills and you have some coding skills, maybe a master's in data science is, or a master's related data science would be very attractive to you. And there's a lot of demand for those folk, and those folks who are able to complete a master's in data science are able to get employed very, very quickly. But I think start learning by finding an online course for you, trying to understand some of the basics and the high level stuff. That if you're interested in AI, start learning to do it with code. There's tons of resources out there. You just got to start with one and just go through it.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Andrew. So Vijay, hope that helps. Another question before we move on to the next part. So Gabriella, shout out to Gabriella. Nice to see you, Gabriella, and thanks for tuning in. So Gabriella asked, what would be the typical jobs related to AI?
Ooh, typical jobs. So data science is, a data scientist is I would say, the AI conductor for many companies. Right. So let's break it down. The data scientists, what they do is they look at the business problem. They communicate that with other aspects of the business for a company, and they look at the data they have. Do they have enough data? Do they not have? They need to get more data from data vendors. And from there, they think about all those different problems they could have and start implementing the right algorithms for that specific business problem and the specific data they have. And at times, a lot of times you're just doing a lot of data cleaning, making sure your data is correct before you employ the model. So that's what the data scientist does. He's the conductor of where we take this data, which algorithm we use, and implement that into the pipeline. Then there's the data engineers. Data engineers work on the back end of data science. They make sure all the cloud servers are up and running correctly. They're trying to make sure that the data there's integrity in the data, so they can alleviate the hassle for the data scientists to do all the heavy lifting. They're the ones making sure the structure for the artificial intelligence work to go. And from data engineers, there might be folks who are in DevOps, and DevOps and AI means those folks trying to make sure it's running properly, it's implemented in the whatever business they're trying to do and making sure it's running. There's also data analysts. Those folks are there to understand the data, analyze the data, give some insights to the data scientists to see where we can maybe use certain data. As part of the data scientist and data analyst job is to manipulate data. Mm-hmm. And by manipulating data, you can able to create interesting new features, interesting insights that could inform your data modeling at the end of the day. And part of data science is the fact that we're working with such huge amounts of data. Part of it is kind of trying different data sets, trying different features, manipulating the different features in order to create the best algorithm and the best output of your model. And it's part of it is just being curious. But I would say that typical jobs are data science, data engineer, DevOps, and AI. And I think data analyst would be a good intro to the data science world.
Awesome, fantastic. Now, quick follow-up question, Andrew. And how about for my non-technical people out there? I'm talking about my PMs, the BAs out there. Do these projects require project managers and business analysts and individuals like that for the most part? What have you observed in regards to those types of skill sets?
I think the data product manager is a hot trend lately. Right. I think it is important to have these product managers because someone needs to be able to manage the right resources available. Someone needs to be able to communicate and organize the team and make sure the business side of a company is able to understand what the data scientists are doing. Because sometimes it's very hard for the data scientists to really convey what they're trying to do. And I think it's a very hard topic to communicate. So the data product manager having a higher level of what data science is all about will be able to effectively communicate why this is so important for a company. Because like I said, part of data science is constantly understanding the data, working on creating the best algorithms, making sure the model is great, and hoping that it produces something that's actually valuable and impactful to the business at the end of the day.
Gotcha. Love that. All right, thanks for responding to that question, Andrew. So Gabrielle, I hope that helps, and thanks so much for tuning in. So let's move on to into the next area that I wanted to talk about, and definitely wanted the viewers to the viewers to hear about. I mean, EdTech is an area that you're very passionate about, Andrew, obviously, and you're in that space at the moment. So can you let the viewers know what is EdTech, and why is this like a pretty hot industry right now?
EdTech, well, it's a huge sector. I believe right now, in 2020, EdTech, the industry, global EdTech industry, or not just the global higher education industry, first of all, and education, it's $6 trillion by
$6 trillion.
2025.
Wow, that is
Yeah,
crazy.
by 2025 it'll be 8 trillion. I think by 2030 it'll be around 10 trillion, at least the current predictions. But I think it'll be accelerated due to COVID. But EdTech covers a lot of things. It covers such as loan refinancing for student debt in the United States. That's considered EdTech. Online learning is an EdTech aspect. SaaS for universities is an EdTech aspect, such as creating and managing online learning for these universities. One company is called Blackboard, which has really taken off the past few years. Alternative universities or alternative college programs is considered EdTech, such as Lighthouse Labs, Lambda Schools, General Assemblies. These are other private colleges trying to get into the space, and they might try to figure out different ways to deliver technology content. And there's other aspects such as like e-learning and tutoring and different aspects. And I think, for example, there's also games out there that's considered EdTech, such as Duolingo out there, where you're learning these new languages, but it's gamified, and that's considered education technology. And I think some of the hot ones specifically is software as a service for universities, especially now since universities have all taken online, and a lot of students are dissatisfied with the online delivery, because I don't consider online learning as some professor putting videos online and just, hey, this is my e-learning. It's not all about that. E-learning is live. E-learning requires engagement. It's a whole new domain. And I think there's a lot of, especially with COVID-19, has increased the trend of startups trying to figure out new ways to engage the students. Because part of the reasons why we go to universities is three reasons. We want to get there. We want to go for the credential, the education, but we also want to go for the experience. And the experience is very, very important. That's why we go to university. It's part of life. And now that it's moved to the online world, there's a lot of excitement in terms of like creating engaging or interactive content for those students in order to make those students feel as if the experience is worthwhile and the money they're paying for is worthwhile. Another hot thing is alternative universities, alternative colleges. These boot camps have accelerated in the past 10 years. And these boot camps are essentially modern trade schools in order to get people familiarizing themselves with technology and really gain the foundations for them to start a career in tech. And I think it's exciting to see that all these alternative colleges are catering to those who are, say, mid-level career folks who are looking for a transition, are able to successfully transition by going through these alternative technologies, alternative colleges. And I think that is an exciting trend, and there's a lot more, I would say, there's a lot more ground to cover in that space in itself, especially starting to introduce more and more of these schools. And I think I've already mentioned earlier, for example, in Canada, there's a AI job shortage. We need more schools such as these alternative boot camps in order to get more people into the tech. And it's needed because tech is going to be the future, and the information age is here. Those who really want us to see society have to get into the information age somehow. And that's why there's all these exciting schools and exciting technologies really trying to, capture folks and get them into the information age.
Got it. I mean, really exciting industry right now. Now within EdTech, Andrew, like what are the opportunities within EdTech in the space of AI? Like I'm assuming, obviously, I mean, you're a data scientist, and you're in the EdTech space. Are there a lot of AI opportunities within EdTech? Like, can you let the viewers know more about that?
Yes, there is. I can't speak much for the K to 12 section, but that's a very hot topic in edtech in itself. And I think there's one company comes to my mind. It's called Squirrel AI. It's a Chinese company based out of Shanghai, I believe. And what they do is it's an after-school program that's completely online, I believe. And based on how the student is interacting with the program, they try to tailor specific recommendations to those specific students in order to like work on their strengths or identify certain weaknesses, and using AI to identify areas where they could improve on the specific students. Another thing in AI is AI and EdTech is using what I said about trying to individualize the learning. But VR and AR education is increasing, especially now in this COVID-19 world. We're trying to think of new ways to make sure the engagement of the students remain high, because I mentioned earlier, it's not great if it's just a video on the internet and you're just watching it. That's not learning. That's not e-learning. In order to elevate the e-learning experience, we need to think of new ways to engage with the audience, and with any business application these days, or any business, there's always going to be a AI or business intelligence component to that. And some of the larger ed tech companies will for sure employ data scientists and employ AI to make sure their product is being delivered correctly.
Awesome, fantastic. So, so Andrew, in terms of trends, like within AI as well as in the EdTech, space as well, any trends you can share with us, like in terms of what you see over the next few years, and kind of looking into the future?
Looking to the future, startups that are going to figure out new ways to engage the user, making sure online learning is interactive, is engaging, because the professor who's on the other side, they need to learn, they need to employ new tools to make sure you're engaged. Because in person, you have the full dimensionality of interacting with your students, but when you're on video, you reduce that one dimension. That's why some of the best professors are very animated.
Yeah.
They use different tones. They have to like be really engaging in the face of the students, and making sure you're capturing the students' attention, and they're not just turning off their camera and passively consuming the education. So more tools in terms of increasing engagement, more tools for universities to manage their online learning. Another thing is the increase of these online or alternative universities, like I call them, or alternative colleges. I think one thing that's going to be interesting in the future and seeing moving forward is this thing about cohort-based learning.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by cohort-based learning is you're going through an online learning or some learning journey, but you're not alone. You're doing it with a group of folks, probably 10, maybe 20, such as a boot camp is considered cohort-based learning. However, that's going to take to the next level, and either it's going to be live lectures, or it's a mix of live and asynchronized learning. But this is all part of like the engagement of learning and in general. So I think cohort-based learning has a lot of opportunity, especially since there's still a huge tech talent gap, and we need to get more folks into the information age. So there's a lot more growth in that space for the next 10 years, in my opinion.
Awesome, fantastic, really, really exciting space. So, folks, those of you watching, check out this space, right? The EdTech space, a lot of AI opportunities, and I would assume a lot of other skill set requirements as well within this field, right? So we're gonna get into the questions. So feel free to put in the questions in the comments, folks. But before we get into that, Andrew, I definitely wanted to let the viewers know about your fantastic podcast. So can you let everyone know about your podcast? It's called The Pandemic Job Hunt, and where people can find it, and what they can expect when they tune in.
So the Pandemic Job Hunt is a podcast I launched early in September, and it's interview-based podcast. So I interview folks in all kinds of industries and all kinds of verticals. I interview folks in finance. I interview folks in edtech, or those who are in recruitment agencies, and I interview those who are either executives in those folks. I interview those who are hiring managers or in HR or recruiters. But my goal is to get different opinions, different people, and try to like understand out of the box ideas in terms of landing a job, especially during a pandemic, because the pandemic has increased unemployment rate. Every time you see a job posting on LinkedIn, within the first a day or first 2 days, it goes up to 500 plus, and most likely is in the thousands.
Yeah.
And how are you going to compete against thousands of other applicants? So you have to start implementing some of these out of box ideas, and that's where my podcast comes in, just to dissect some of these out of box ideas based on other people's experience, other people's knowledge in the industry. And that's my goal, just to figure out how to get a job during a pandemic. And if you would like to learn more or hear about my podcast, please tune in at www.pandemicjobhunt.com, or you can just Google search the Pandemic Job Hunt Andrew Barry. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the major podcasting platforms. And if you guys would like to be a guest or know anyone who wants to be a guest, please reach out to me. I'm always looking for guests and interesting folks to be on my show.
Awesome, fantastic. So I put the website address down there, folks. Make sure you check it out. And when is our episode coming out, Andrew? The one where
it's gonna come out very soon. Actually, coming out tomorrow morning.
Oh, awesome. Yes, yeah.
I timed it correctly for this tech talk.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So make sure you check it out, folks, and make sure you check out the pandemicjobhunt.com. Amazing, fantastic guest and fantastic episode, and the one with me is going to be coming out tomorrow. So make sure you definitely check that one out as well. So that being said, Andrew, like, are there? The floor is kind of open right now for you to, if you have any solutions or services that you provide to people in general, you're most welcome to let the viewers know about them, about those right now.
Well, please tune into my show at pandemicjobhunt.com. I love to connect with folks and talk about AI, looking for jobs, and just tech in general. And please, if you know anyone who is a good guest, please let me know, send them my way, and I might have an interview with them.
Awesome, fantastic. And Andrew, how about for those of the viewers who want to maybe follow you or connect with you on whatever social channels, like what's the best way for people to kind of do that if they want to follow you or connect with you?
Best way will be LinkedIn.
Okay.
You can find me, Andrew Barry, the host of Pandemic Job Hunt. I'm sure you'll post it in the comments below. Yeah. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Andrew HN Barry.
Awesome, fantastic. So, folks, Andrew shared so much great information. I'm going to get into the question shortly, Andrew, if you have a couple of more minutes. And we're going to respond to a few more questions from the viewers. And folks, make sure you add any other questions you have about AI, data science, EdTech, education technology. And Andrew, I'll have Andrew respond to the question. So we got a question from Gabriela. Gabriela says, what's the most popular programming language used in AI? Any training recommendations?
Python, by far. Python, I would say, is the most popular programming language. It's used in the industry. There is R, on the other hand, but it's more used in the academic space or in research. So universities, if you do like a research project with a professor in AI or whatever, they'll be using R. However, I think if you want to be in the industry, Python is the way to go. And with Python, there's all these tons of great Python plugins out there that are data science related that will make your workflow very easy. You don't have to be super coding expert. All you need to know is how to use Python, how to implement these Python plugins, and understand how these other functions work. Because there's already smart people out there creating these Python plugins or AI plugins for you to use in your workflow, which is making data science a lot more accessible for many folks.
Awesome, fantastic. So hope that helps, Gabriela. Great question. Shout out to Dorinda, tuning in all the way from Ghana. Wow, awesome. Shout out to my friends in Ghana there, and thanks for tuning in, Dorinda. We got a question here from Debduti. So Debduti says, hello, Andrew. If someone already has some programming background and a bachelor's in STEM and experience with working with business, what should be the way forward? Would you recommend a master's?
I'm assuming you want to get into artificial intelligence. I think number one, if you can do a master's in data science, go for it. It's very hot. Those who finish a master's in data science can get employed very quickly. But if you don't want to be a person who are in the super nitty gritty of the data science work, but you want to have a better understanding of data science, a lot of these business schools and the universities are offering such as a management of artificial intelligence program. I know that Queens have one. I believe McGill is going to introduce one already, or they already have one, and as well as the Western Ivy, at least in the United States and in Canada specifically. And also, I think I've noticed in the United States, there are a few master's programs introducing masters in data science and whatnot. And that's a good foundational piece to get into data science if you already have some programming background or working with business. But if you already know a lot of these stuff, maybe you can just teach yourself. Maybe going through a boot camp might be more appropriate if you already have some of these knowledges or some of these skills. And these boot camps can really elevate your game. And part of it, at the end of the day, is networking. You need to understand the fundamentals of data science. If you're going through the bootcamp experience, when you finish that, you need to have a portfolio of data science projects. And it's very easy to create a portfolio, spend maybe 3 to 4 months after your bootcamp to work on exciting portfolio projects. Then you also need to network into the space somehow by joining communities, go on meetups.com, finding AI communities, joining conferences, and really getting to know some of the latest technologies in the space.
Gotcha. Excellent advice there. Thanks so much, Andrew and Debduti. Hope that helps. We got a question here from Kalpesh. So shout out to Kalpesh. Thanks for tuning in. Kalpesh says, Andrew, is there any part-time course for AI? If so, how many years? For how many years, I guess?
I'm not aware of very many part-time courses for AI out there in the market right now, or specifically designed for part-time. I know there's full-time courses, and I know Lighthouse Labs has offered full-time courses and some of the other coding boot camps, but there are part-time data analytics courses, and that gives you a good foundation of Python, some of the data analytical thinking, and from there, maybe what would work for you is a self-paced artificial intelligence course, either on Coursera, Udemy, or EDX. I'm sure there's tons of AI courses out there, and kind of just teach yourself along that way. And I think there's a great program offered by Andrew Ng Ning, I think that's how I pronounce his name. It's on, or I think he has a program called Deep Learning on Coursera, and I think it's a fantastic program to get into artificial intelligence. And I think you need some Python or knowledge, but if you have the basics of Python, I think it's more than enough to complete that program. And that's a good self-paced, self-taught program, if you like.
Awesome, fantastic. Thanks for those suggestions, Andrew. So Kalpesh, hope that helps. Make sure you check those out. We got a question here from, let's see here. I get a question from Vijay. So Vijay says, Andrew, is having knowledge about AI a trump card in the project management field?
Yes, if your company is working with artificial intelligence or working with any business intelligence deployment, having knowledge in AI can be really helpful. And I think I encourage everyone who wants to get into the artificial intelligence space, but they don't want to get into the nitty gritty of AI, for example, like developing or DevOps or some really deep data engineering work. Just having a general knowledge of AI, the kind of workflow, the processes, some of the decision-making process behind a data scientist thinking in terms of making the right choice in their algorithms can really help elevate your game in terms of communicating to the data scientist and the management team. So I think this is going to be an exciting thing in the future. Product managers and data.
Awesome. Fantastic. So Vijay, hope that helps. Thanks for your question. One more question from Syed. So Syed says, can an RPA developer implement AI with Python?
Could you clarify, what is an RPA developer again? I don't know the acronym.
Robotic process automation. I guess that's what he's talking about.
Robotic process automation.
RPA. Any idea about that? Or maybe, Syed, what you can do, maybe give some more clarity about what exactly you're asking there.
Yeah, but sure.
Yeah, if you're still there, but no worries. And so Dev Duty said, great advice, thanks, awesome. And then Kalpesh says, thanks, Andrew. Okay, awesome. So, folks, it looks like that's all the questions. Andrew, thank you so much for your time. You spent almost an hour with us and shared such great information about AI, data science, and the EdTech space. Folks, make sure you like, share, and comment, and make sure you thank Andrew in the comments. He shared some great advice. And again, the address for Vijay actually posted the address as well. That is the address for Andrew's podcast, pandemicjobhunt.com. Make sure you check it out. It's a great podcast, a lot of great information, a lot of great, awesome guests. And make sure you connect with and follow Andrew as well. I put the link to his LinkedIn profile in the comments as well. Again, Andrew, thanks so much, my friend. Appreciate your time. I had a fantastic conversation. For those of you tuning in, thanks so much for your time, and hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. You got some great information from this session. Have a good day, everyone. And thanks again, Andrew.
All right. Thank you so much, Dean.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.